Welcome to the Breaking News Bears podcast. I'm your host, Chris Capone, joined alongside my co-host once again, Evan Davis. And the regular season is finally down to the last series of the year. Kinda. Most teams will have the regular season finished by Sunday, but there is a chance due to Hurricane Helene that there might be a doubleheader on Monday between the Mets and the Braves to determine playoff seeding. However, over the course of this episode, we're going to look back at some of the biggest and most memorable moments of the 2024 MLB regular season, including milestones, records, and other moments. We'll also quickly discuss on some trade deadline moves that are viewed more clearly now that they're at the regular season, and many rental deals are now expiring. But first, Evan, I want to ask you, without naming Shohei Ohtani, what was a memorable moment this regular season for you?
Without naming, honestly, I think that one of the more memorable moments this year would probably be I think that just the Tigers, honestly, like the run that they've been on since the second half of the year. And I honestly think it started when they took two of three against the Dodgers before the All-Star break because they had two come from behind victories, two walk-off wins. And ever since that series, they've been one of the best teams in the American League, which is funny to say because they were trying to shed as much payroll as possible. But you just look at that environment in that city, and when the Tigers are relevant, as we saw a decade ago when they had Scherzer, Verlander, Rick Porcello, that's a name for you. When they had an elite team, it was so much fun to watch them. So I just think this might be a precursor for, what's to come. We've seen so many teams sign guys to under the radar type of deals. I wouldn't be surprised if the Tigers were kind of aggressive. They're a young, up and coming team in a very subpar division. I think it's completely up for grabs, and you already have an ace under control in Tarek Skubal, who more likely than not will unanimously win the Cy Young because I don't see who else you vote for.
Yeah, and you look at it what they did at the deadline. They traded Marcana, Andrew Chafin, and Jack Flaherty, and the only person that's really come up from those deals has been Trey Sweeney in that Jack Flaherty deal. And
Hmm.
the Tigers as a whole have just been a unit since the trade deadline, and it's really been, they add a bunch of these younger players, and they're all hungry. They want to play good. They want to play good for their team. And AJ Hinch is obviously a good manager who's been there, done that, but had that scandal with the Astros. But now being with the Tigers, he's kind of turned this ship around and really shown that, you know what, like we're gonna keep on going. We're gonna make a postseason push. And over the last couple, or over August and September, they've really done it.
Yeah, and it's really fun to watch. And I mean, the irony to this entire situation is that they started playing better baseball when Javi Baez went down. But here's this one interesting stat that I found. This was on Twitter via Pat Caputo, who's like a sports columnist. Said, as of this moment today, September 27th, the Tigers are 52 and 26 with Parker Meadows in the lineup this year. They're 32 and 48 without him. Like
Yeah.
that is just, I mean, I didn't even know Parker Meadows was that impactful, but you saw even the walk-off hit that he had in that Little League World Series game against the Yankees. It's just his clutch gene, and it's just, you see the young up and coming talent, especially with guys like Max Clark and now, Jackson Jobe joining the team for a late push. This team could be really, really exciting.
Yeah, and it's something that's really good to see that it's a young, hungry team, not like a old like the Twins have just been
Oh,
they're old and not healthy, and it's just you see them going, they were basically limping, and were if they didn't take the Tigers making this whole run, the Twins were going to be in the playoffs most likely. uh and you just see
yeah.
a team limping to the postseason. Like they would have been a quick two and out in the postseason. But I think the Tigers have a genuine shot when you have Tariq Skubal on game one of a series. There's a genuine shot that they end up, they could make some noise.
Yeah, and I guess we could continue on with the memorable moments. How about the Minnesota Twins and just how disappointing they've been this
Yeah.
year? I think expectations, especially after that series win against the Blue Jays, I thought expectations were definitely through the roof, but a similar situation in Oakland. I don't get how people can be so cheap with that much money. And not to sound insincere, where do you think the money's going after you die? Like, do you think you just take it with you? Like, but real talk, like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sound like an asshole, but at the same time, it's like, why are you being so cheap? Like, I don't get it. Like, you invest so much money into this baseball team and then you just see it squash. And this was kind of a similar situation with the Orioles, and now they have new ownership, and you see the deals that they've made. Some have worked out, some haven't. We could talk about that later. But the Minnesota Twins, like they have Pablo Lopez, they have Bailey Ober, they have Johan Duran in the back end of this bullpen. They have a solid enough bullpen, but they signed guys that are never reliable. We obviously Royce Lewis is a phenomenal talent, but
Can't stay healthy.
you're kind of waiting for him to squash. Carlos Correa is the same situation. We thought he was going to the Mets, and we thought the Mets were going to be like some stupid, ridiculous team, and Correa was all of a sudden going to play third base again. But the problem was that he can't stay healthy. He went to the Mets, they said no. He went to the Giants, they said no because of these back issues. And then you look at what's happened. I There's a reason why it took Correa, his third team, and he didn't even want to go back to the Twins. It's just that nobody else wanted to
Wanted him.
pay him. And with Buxton, it's the same thing. All these guys have an incredibly high ceiling. They can't stay healthy. It's just a mess. Like they're signing guys that no other team wants to sign. And it's not because they suck, it's just because they can't stay healthy. And you
Yeah,
saw the fans boycotting over the weekend.
yeah. Well, I mean, you're paying Correa and Buxton a combined $48 million, and that's a huge portion of your salary, like a 6-year, $200 million deal for Correa.
Hmm.
It's an insane amount of money for somebody, he's played only 85 games this year. He's played basically only half the season. And he's been good in those 85 games, but I mean, Buxton hasn't been healthy like ever. He's had
Hmm.
1 year he's played over 140 games, or he played exactly 140 games. That was 2017,
Yeah.
7 years ago. He's
Yeah.
30 now. I don't think we're ever gonna get a healthy season of Byron Buxton ever again because it's just he can't stay healthy. You look at uh Royce Lewis, I think that's the reincarnation of Byron Buxton, the new generation's Byron Buxton, where when he's on the field, oh crap,
He's
he's amazing. He demolishes baseballs, he plays a great third, but he can't stay on the field. It's perpetuating cycle of like injury prone players that run through Minnesota.
And the thing that sucks is like Buxton and Lewis, like Buxton's 30 and Royce Lewis is 25. Like you shouldn't be like it's more common with pitchers just because of the velocity and everything. It shouldn't be like this with a 25-year-old in Royce Lewis and a now 30-year-old in Buxton. But Buxton's been going through this, as you mentioned, basically throughout his entire career. When he's on the field, he's like a 280 hitter and a top five defender, maybe even top three if you want to argue that. But it's just, I don't get it. And again, like the Twins, they're in such a weak division where, like, yes, the Guardians, they're here to stay with Jose Ramirez. Now you have Lane Thomas for a couple more years. The bullpen isn't going anywhere. But outs like you could finagle your way into a wild card spot. Like, let's be real. The American League this entire year, there's no true contender that you can look at and be like, that's a scary team. I could pick three in the National League. I can't find one in the American League. But the Twins, like, there's a huge offseason coming up. Like, they have the capabilities. There's a lot of names that are out there for the Twins to sign. They could go after a Christian Walker potentially. They could go after a Pete Alonso. Now that Carlos Santana's 35 years old, there's pitching on the market. They could potentially pry away Corbin Burns uh, from the Baltimore Orioles. Maybe they sign Walker Buehler on a 1 year flyer. They have a lot of options. They just need to spend, but they need to spend correctly.
Yeah, and you really look at this team and you think, how much is the White Sox record helping them like even be looking like a competent team? They're 12-1 against the White Sox. I've said this before. You take away those 13 games, they're 70 and 76. They're below 500.
Yeah.
They're not a good team. It's this division. You get 13 games against the White Sox, you're minimum going to win 12. So it's this it's this cycle of they look their record looks better than what they really are.
Yeah, and
Um,
even 5 games above 500 isn't
yeah.
like it's not that impressive.
Yeah. Moving on, quickly want to talk about, something that happened at the very beginning of the season that I feel like kind of been glossed over, but Angel Hernandez retired this season.
Oh
Like
yeah.
in the middle of the season, there was what was it, John Heyman or was was it Boob Nightingale that tweeted it first, but it was Angel Hernandez just straight up announced, I'm done. And this happened after a game against or it was like a week or two after a game between the Blue Jays and Yankees where he called some awful pitches. Like he called one, he didn't call Bound Francis stepping off the mound and then throwing a pitch immediately after, not giving a time for a timeout, and then threw a pitch that was like almost at Gleyber Torres' head and called it a strike. It it was time for him to go. It was been time for him to go.
Yeah, I mean, Angel Hernandez, who can ever forget? Like, no one can ever forget the Josh Hader, Kyle Schwarber strikeout, where
Yeah,
even Hader is like, there's
got
no
away with
way I
it.
should have struck him out. And the funny thing about Kyle Schwarber is like, he was saying, you've been terrible for them, you've been terrible for us, you're calling
Both
us.
sides.
Yeah, like the funny thing about Schwarber is like when he chirps, it's like it's not just for his team. He's like, you've just been awful,
Yeah,
awful. But why have Angel Hernandez when you can also have Andy Fletcher, just
yeah,
called who just called the Dodgers Padres game, I think on I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. He called the game two of the series. His strike call percentage was 80%.
yeah. That's
That is
bad.
terrible. That is terrible. And I'm all over Twitter and I'm like, is this guy actually like this bad? And like Padres fans are like, he's been horrible for them. Angel Hernandez, probably one of the worst umpires. I genuinely don't know how someone can stay that long at all. Like I don't get it. It's impressive. I almost want to just clap it up for him.
He had that union. He had the union behind him that he said they can't fire me, and that's how he was able to stay for so long.
Yeah.
Because realistically, he shouldn't have been an umpire for like over the last like 8 years. He should have been gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming, and people might say, "Oh, you're being too harsh." When you're an umpire in the major leagues and basically every game is in your hand, obviously you're not going to be perfect every game, but when it's consistent and then you somehow still get playoff and World Series games, that's when fans have a problem.
Yeah. Another quick note I want to talk about is just how competitive this regular season was. We talk about the Tigers and how they were able to come back, but this is the first regular season with no 100-game winner in many years. And it's something that's really, you never really think about it, but there's been an 100-game winner over the past decade. It's been a
Yeah.
really long time that there hasn't been a 100-game winner.
Yeah, I want to say this is the first time since 2014 that there hasn't been a 100 game winner. And this is, it was based off Jeff Passan's tweet. This is also the first time that since 2014, that same year, that no team in the MLB has had a run differential over 200, which is, obviously kind of crazy to
Yeah.
say. But when you look at the MLB standings, even I'll take you back to 2022. I think that was the year that the Dodgers won 111 games, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Guess what the Dodgers run differential was in 2022? I'm just gonna put you on the spot real quick.
I'm gonna say somewhere in the 250,
Higher,
300s,
higher.
330.
Their run differential was plus 334. I didn't even know their expected win-loss was 116 and 46. They could have broken the record, but like just to put in perspective, like that was the run differential for the best team in baseball. Even the Houston Astros that year had a run differential of plus 219, and the Yankees had a run differential of plus 240. So just been a lot of like low scoring, tight games. But I mean, honestly, like with your Blue Jays, there's not much to say, but as a baseball fan in general, isn't this what we want? Like, I can't remember. Like, this is the first time I've cared about September baseball this late into the year since 2019. Was it 2021? 2021 was when the Giants won
Yeah.
the division and the Dodgers won 106 games. Like, that's the last time I've cared about September baseball, but I think that's what's good for this sport because, as I've mentioned before, like this time of the year, you're kind of just waiting for the postseason. And now that the Dodgers have the bye and they can't do any wrong, like I don't care right now for until October 6th.
Yeah, crazy stat about 2014, by the way, 10 years ago. The Angels were the best team in baseball. Like that's
Ugh.
98 wins.
That is just, I mean, yeah, like you look at 2014, the highest run differential was those Angels, which is just crazy. Like TB, like throwback to those teams, man.
Yeah.
That is, and the A's were in second place in the AL West.
It
Was this when the Astros? No, the Astros were in the American League at this time. I couldn't remember when they switched over.
didn't win a playoff game, won 98 games, got swept by the Royals. 22-year-old Mike Trout.
God,
Yeah.
throwbacks, man,
Uh,
throwbacks.
yeah. One last thing I want to talk about, or I guess we can kind of, but Shohei Ohtani's 50-50. Just the fact that this happened and he's still going. Like there's still three more games to be played, and he's in Colorado.
I
Granted,
just, I
he's
don't know
at
if he's
53,
playing. I just,
but if he can get two more home runs, he can set the inaugural 55-55. It's not as round of a number, but
yeah, I just, I mean, I'm waiting on my phone right now to see what the lineup's looking like. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't see Mookie, if I don't see Shohei. I mean, obviously Freddie Freeman is going to be gone. R.I.P. Freddie Freeman. No, I'm kidding. But I wonder, what happens. Obviously, they're in Colorado. He has a chance. He hit a 470-foot home run the last time he went there. So, I mean, who knows? But I just want to say, I went to four Dodger games this year. Otani didn't get one hit at any of the games I went
bad
to.
luck.
And he hits all these home runs. Apparently, he's batting 330 at home. What's funny enough, though, is every game I've been to this year, Teoscar Hernandez goes stupid crazy. I went to the game that he was a triple shy of the cycle. He had a home run off Paul Skeens. Went to the game that he had all three RBIs against the Giants. Went to the game where he hit where he hit a home run and a double. Like he's been phenomenal. I'm the Teoscar truther. He should just stay in LA, but Otani overrated. He owes me money. I don't want to see him again. But no, the 50-50, like that is just crazy to think. And what's even crazier about Otani's 50-50 is that at the All-Star break, he had 16 stolen bases.
Yeah.
Like I
And
didn't e- I didn't even think 40-40. I was like, maybe he gets to 40-40. Like maybe, because I knew he was going to get the home runs. I was just more concerned about the bases.
I wonder what conversation went on. Like it must have been something over the All-Star break where they were like, "Hey, you should run more because you're pretty good at it."
Yeah.
Like I wonder what the conversation was that he just started to turn it up because like after the All-Star break, he had a stretch of four games in a row where he stole a base, and then it just like games with two stolen bases. I wonder if the first base coach was just seeing things better and saying like, "Hey, like he's getting slow to the plate, go steal." Like I wonder
I,
what the conversation was that was like, "Shohei, you should run more."
I don't know, but like you look at this month, 13 stolen bases. He had 15 last month. The month prior to that, he had 12. Like, and then, but he only had, what's crazy is like he only had three stolen bases in the month of July, and then now he's just stolen like 40 bags over the course. But what was I going to say? What's also, if we were, we're on the topic of Otani. I remember at the beginning of the year, I was like, runners in scoring position. Otani was awful to begin the year. He had a 175 batting average. His last 11 at bats with runners in scoring position, he's 10 for 11
Yeah.
with 14 RBIs. Like this series against the Padres gave me hope because Mookie and Freddie on cue did absolutely nothing. Like I think Mookie had more pop-ups than he had whatever. He went 0 for 4 with a pop cycle in game 2. He loves his podcast. He doesn't want to hit. It's whatever, right on cue. But Otani is what keeps me going. The fact that anytime there's a clutch moment lately, he stepped up. So that's my memorable moment.
The fact that
Underpaid.
the fact he's going to win three of the last four, and he's going to win three MVPs in the last 4 years. And the one year he didn't, he came second to Aaron Judge hitting 62.
Yeah.
Like this is an insane run that Otani's been on, and I think it further cements that that he hit 400 total bases this
Yeah,
on
we forgot.
yesterday,
Yeah,
and
first
that's something
player
that
since
hasn't been done.
'01.
2001,
Yeah.
like it's an insane thing to see that like he's just setting record after record and setting it further cements, in my opinion, that Shohei Ohtani is going to go down as the best player to play baseball when his career is done.
If I see that John Heyman or one of those New York media guys voted for Lindor, like if Ohtani isn't unanimous MVP, your vote should just be revoked because I don't know who else you vote for. Lindor had a phenomenal year, but he got hurt at the end. Like
Yeah,
he had a case up until mid-September, I would say.
until
But once,
Ohtani was closing in on 50-50.
yeah, and then when Ohtani just went buck crazy, like that's just when I think like he has to be the first player in MLB history to win unanimous MVP in both leagues.
Yeah, like it's an insane season that's been going on for Ohtani. And I guess the last thing I'll talk about for just some of the most memorable moments of the season happened just yesterday. Oakland Coliseum.
Yeah.
They John Fisher and his whole ragtag group of investors and billionaires moving out of Oakland. It's such a sad sight to see when it is sold. Oakland Coliseum sold out yesterday, and it's just
Hmm.
crazy to see that like they never put a team together that really like brought everyone together. Like he
Well,
he he raised ticket prices and he basically shoved away all the avid fans. He took away fan packages that would incentivize fans to come to games. And
mhm.
it's just like it's a disgusting thing to happen to that team. Oakland's lost three teams in the last 5 years. They lost the Warriors, Raiders, and now they've lost the
Yeah.
Athletics.
I mean, some of that has to do with the politicians kind of just being reluctant in change. Like that's also been
Yeah.
a huge issue. But John Fisher, like straight up, you're just a disgrace. Like you are a horrible representation of your family's last name. Uh, for those who's ever watching, for those who don't know, his dad is the co-founder and started The Gap, which obviously has made billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Uh, Joe Lacob, the current owner of the Golden State Warriors, offered to buy the team from Fisher, just being like, hey, I want to keep this team in Oakland. If you're not going to put the power and not do anything about it, I'll take it over. John Fisher rejected his offer. In terms of fielding a team, they had a team. John Fisher was just too much of a cheapo to pay them. Like, you list the guys that have been Oakland Athletics: Matt Chapman, Marcus Simeon, Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, Sean Mania on the pitching staff as well. I'm trying to think of other pitchers and players off the top
Chris
of my.
Bassett was in
Chris
Oakland A.
Bassett was in Oakland A. Obviously, over the course of time, you're not going to keep all of those guys. But if you could have kept Olson and Chapman as like your two cornerstones, and because you need a corner infield more than anything, and then just fill out the rest of the pieces and actually drafted well. I mean, obviously you have Jacob Wilson, who's a stud, but outside of that, like they don't know how to draft. They're too cheap to sign anyone, and they just make it virtually impossible to keep a fan base. And seeing all the videos of these kids crying and adults crying, it's like you remember like 10 we talk about 2014. You remember like 10 years ago when the A's were relevant? Like the Coliseum was legit
Packed.
hell for opponents. Like
Yeah.
that place was hell. And John Fisher is just like, I don't get it. Like, again, where do you think this money's going when you're gone? Like, you're nearing the age of 70. Like, what do you think's gonna happen? Like, you're not taking it with you.
Yeah, it's just an insane. They had Jonah Heim too. Like they had
Oh my
a
God, I forgot
they
about
had a
Jonah Heim.
backstop. They had Murphy
Pick
and
your
Heim.
poison. Like,
Yeah,
pick one of them.
you could have kept one. You had Mark Canna. Obviously, he was like 30 something plus, but he's still a decent uh average major leaguer. Like he'll hit for OPS of a like around average, but like just an insane situation where you're not paying anybody ever. So you're just wasting money, like you said, and it's going nowhere. And it's just a sad situation to see. You had the makings of if you just invested your money correctly and believed in the organization that you had built, you
Mhm.
could have had a decent team that could 2021 isn't that far away.
Yeah.
Like 2021 they went 86 in 76. They almost made
The
the
playoffs.
playoffs. They were in the postseason hunt until the last couple of games of the season,
Hmm.
and they still had, I don't know, it's just a
They
sad situation.
and even like the returns that they got for some of these guys, like I don't get how they traded Sean Murphy to the Braves, but then didn't end up with William Contreras. Like how like that I don't know. And then the Matt Olson deal, I can't even tell you who was in that trade package back for Matt Olson. I want to say Christian Pache, but like he's in Miami now, so who even like I don't even know. It's like you traded all these guys, but you didn't even get anything really in return. It was kind of just like you gave them away for free. I mean, honestly, at the next winter meetings, I hope the owners vote out John Fisher because it's not going to work in Sacramento. Like, who's going to that game? Like, Oakland A's fans aren't going to travel to Sacramento, no matter how close it might be for some of them. Like, you can't reward John Fisher for this. Like, they got to figure something out. And Vegas seems like the option, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you just killed an entire city.
Yeah, and it's just like you talk about the trades too, by the way. The trade for Matt Chapman, uh Zach Lowe, Kevin Smith, Kirby Snead, and Gunnar Hoglund. Gunnar Hoglund,
Who are
eh,
those?
yeah,
I don't
it's
even know who any of those guys are, like respectfully.
yeah, it's like they traded some of their best players and they got nothing back in return. And it's, to shed salary and make sure they have enough money for the next whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I
Just
guess the A's and Olsen deal, they got Joey Estes and Shea Langoliers, but like how did you not walk away with Contreras?
I mean,
Like
he
Ling
was in the deal. Like Contreras was in the deal.
yeah, and like no shade on Langoliers, but respectfully, like William Contreras' offense is a lot better.
Yeah, they had Crush Davis too. They had Chris Davis with a K in
Oh
Oakland, and it's like
God.
it's just a sad situation. Like I'm getting like depressed thinking about it.
I know. Can we move on?
Yeah,
Why don't we talk about the Padres dying back
yeah.
series?
That's a huge series coming up to end the season, by the way. Like Padres and Diamondbacks. The Padres already clinched with that triple play against the Dodgers on Monday night.
No,
Or was
that
it
was Wednesday night.
was it Monday? I thought it was
Today's
Tuesday.
Friday.
The week's going
Today's
by.
Friday. It
Goddamn. But yeah,
was
Dodgers or
Wednesday
the
night.
Padres already clinched their playoff spot, but are battling to maintain home field advantage. Yu Darvish is on the mound tonight. He's been pretty decent in his return. Obviously, he pitched against the Astros, but he also pitched against the White Sox. Um, but
Trash.
yeah, huge series coming up between the Padres and Diamondbacks. There is a chance that the Padres could get swept, and that kind of throws a wrench into everything. Uh, and the season series is tied 5-5, so whoever win, well, it wouldn't even matter because the Padres or the Diamondbacks would need to sweep.
One of the Diamondbacks need to sweep in order to overtake the Padres. Obviously, one of these two teams is going to win the season series, but in the end, it wouldn't
Matter
matter because the
unless the
Padres could
Diamondbacks sweep.
still, yeah, unless the Diamondbacks sweep, which, dude, I mean, I'm going to be watching every game.
Yeah,
Like tonight, I'm going to watch the Tigers with Garrett Crochet on the mound against them, and then after that, I'm tuning into Padres and Diamondbacks because I don't care anymore.
it's basically the beginning of postseason baseball, and it's so
Yeah.
great to see. I feel like every team should play a division rival to end the series or to end the season because it's so much better because you could have teams that are already out of it. Like the Marlins are playing the Blue Jays.
Well, I mean,
This doesn't matter for anyone.
The Dodgers are playing the Rockies. Like that's a pretty solid rivalry.
They should be playing the Giants last week of the
Oh
season. The
God.
Rockies, the Rockies can go play like the Cubs or something. The Cubs, like or like the Pirates or the Marlins. Like you could have
Yeah,
the trash series at the end of the
yeah,
season.
yeah. But I mean, back on to the Padres Diamondbacks. Like I threw this question out there because I was kind of confused with this, and not because I was a salty Dodgers fan, but like, why did the Padres celebrate so hard after clinching a playoff spot? Like, obviously, it's a huge accomplishment, but I even tweeted out, like, they absolutely deserve it. But situationally, why? Like, why would you do it in that spot? Like, if they, by any stroke of luck, won. two of three, if they swept the Dodgers, they most likely win the division. If they take two of three and now Freddie Freeman is hurt, it puts a lot of pressure on the Dodgers to then win two of three in that death hole of Coors Field, which just sucks
Yeah.
for everyone. I was so shocked that they like went full out celebration because after that first game, like obviously it was close in game two, but they got no hit after Jack Flaherty left the game. They didn't get a hit in the final four innings. Their only base runners came via three walks. And then last night, no disrespect to Walker Buehler, you've been kind of hit or miss lately. You only get one run against Buehler when Joe Musgrove was dealing through five and two thirds. Like, I think it was a horrible decision by the Padres. Like, if you have championship aspirations, then like BFD if you win if you clinch a postseason spot. Like the
Yeah.
Dodgers didn't do that when they beat the Marlins. They knew that they had to go play more meaningful baseball.
Yeah, it's just, with the Padres, they really had a shot to take the division. Like you could genuinely have a shot to take the division if you sweep the Dodgers. And obviously that's asking a lot. You're asking a lot to
Yeah.
sweep the Dodgers. But they were in there for the
But even
the,
like
the second game. They were in there
yeah, and
up
again
until
like if they
yeah,
take two
like
of three, if they take two of three,
yeah, there still was a shot, and you had Dylan Cease, and he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings, and that's really not what he's been over the last. I think the Dodgers broadcast had showed it over the last like 12 starts. He had an ERA of 1.26, I
yeah,
think.
I
It's
mean he's gross.
yeah. So it's like you really had a shot. You had your ace on the mound, and his last outing, he almost had a no hitter. He went 8 in the third against the Astros.
Yeah.
Like you had a genuine shot to win a series against the Dodgers and really stick it to them and force that to take the division. But
Yeah, and what's even more interesting about this Padres situation right now is like Yu Darvish is the only scheduled pitcher in this series. The Diamondbacks have Merrill Kelly on the mound and then Eduardo Rodriguez, which is just ugh. And then Brandon Pfaadt, who's either a Cy Young pitcher or a 5.80
getting shelled,
ERA.
yeah,
But I just I don't know. Like I just think if you've been prideful of yourself of the fact that you have championship aspirations, I just thought, if you want to do a champagne toast, that's all cool. But they were partying like a frat school, which the Dodgers did last night, but that was like after the job was done. Like
you won the division. Like
you
that's
won the
it.
division, you have a bye week. I mean, I would prefer if they finish second, but they're like, it can't get worse for you. Like for the Padres, it potentially
And
can. They're a phenomenal team on the road. They're 46 and 32 on the road. So, I'm not overly concerned, but it's baseball. Anything can really happen. Like I didn't expect Dylan Cease to throw 28 pitches in the first inning and only go 5 innings. Like
mhm,
I didn't even care if the Dodgers lost that game. The fact that they took Cease out, the fact that they only allowed Cease to go five, like then you just go bullpen for bullpen. Like that,
yeah,
that's what ended up happening. I think it was a bad look on the Padres, and they're still a scary team, and I still do not want to face them whatsoever. But I just thought, like, what are you doing? Like, why?
yeah. And you know what? If they win one game, they have the season series over the Mets.
I can't
'Cause
remember if they have the season series. I think it's pretty neck and neck because the Mets and the
The
Padres
Mets have the Padres. The Mets
yeah,
have the season series win. So they technically, if somehow the Mets win all three against Milwaukee over the weekend, which Milwaukee might start resting players knowing that they're
because they're already locked in.
yeah, and the Mets need to win. So there could be a shot where you know that this happens that the Mets could end up taking that number one wild card spot if they somehow win the 3 games in Milwaukee and then sweep Atlanta on Monday.
Yeah.
There's a shot that the Padres, if they only win one and go 1-2 over the weekend against the Diamondbacks, there's a shot. There's a shot the Mets take the number one wild
Yeah.
card spot. So the
And
Padres need to look to they need to win 2 out of 3. That's how
Mhm.
they need to view it. They need to win 2 out of 3, win the
Mhm.
series, and move on.
Yeah, and I mean, don't look now, but Luis Arias is two for his last 26,
Yeah.
which you know, I look, best contact hitter in baseball, but and one final rant. Can people stop acting like the Padres are some underdog story? Like, I get they traded Juan Soto and got rid of Josh Hader, but Josh Hader isn't like the greatest closer of all time. Like, we
No.
saw in the opening stages with the Astros, he's vulnerable. And they're like, oh, well, the Padres shed over $190 million because everyone they traded for is just in arbitration. Like,
Yeah.
they traded for everyone. Payroll and salary doesn't mean anything. Like, there's no salary cap in baseball, and everyone wants to point the Padres as like some Cinderella story that like no one was expecting them to get good. Really? You traded for Cease at the beginning of the year. You traded for a Rise at the beginning of the year. You gave up your number 2, 4, and 5 prospects for Tanner Scott and Brian Hoeing. You traded your 3 more top 15 prospects for Jason Adam. The narrative drives me nuts. Like, what Cinderella story? They missed the playoffs last year because they sucked. So then
Yeah.
they traded for everyone. Like, if that was the case, I just wish the Dodgers just traded for Otani. Because then, like, oh well, look, you didn't pay him 700 million. You just traded James Outman and whoever it may have been in that deal. Like, it drives me freaking insane.
Yeah. It's really been, but no disrespect, but you spend like a majority of your farm system and you get all these good relievers. Of course, people are going to expect you to do good. Like, or you're supposed to do good because if they turn into trash bags when they come over, obviously they're gonna look it's gonna look even worse. So you make these big deals, and yeah, Jason Adam has a ERA of 1 since being moved over, and Tanner Scott, he did give up those 2 runs against the Dodgers, but
3. I want all of them counted.
but yeah, it's just like this isn't an underdog story. This is just a rebuilding situation, pretty much, where you got like, or not rebuilding,
It's a
but like
rebuild on
retool,
acid, like a
retooling,
retool.
retooling,
Yeah.
where you just okay, we lost Juan Soto, but then we took the prospect we got from the Yankees for Juan Soto and we turned him into Dylan Cease. Like this isn't like you just lost Juan Soto and then you moved on to the next year. No, you got the guy from Juan Soto and you turned him into Dylan Cease. Like that's how you're supposed to look at it. They turned Juan Soto into Dylan Cease, and that's
Yeah.
not as much of a fall off when you look at the Padres pitching staff. And yeah, they really needed pitching. They made the deal and they got Michael King also, and he's been a really good starter for them. Like
Yeah. And Michael King showed signs of being
of
a
being a
good
starter.
starter with the Yankees. So it's not like the Padres just got this like project pitcher and turned him into an ace. Like, everyone knew, okay, maybe not everyone, but like a dialed in baseball fan knew that Michael King was going to be really freaking good
Dude, he had
because
14
when,
strikeouts against the
yeah,
Jays at the end of the year.
because when the Yankees moved him from the bullpen to a starter, he was lights out. Like, he was
Yeah,
throwing 7 innings in his sleep. Like, it just obviously, like, being a Dodger fan, we have a lot, but just to portray the Padres as like just a Cinderella team that through all odds was able to make the postseason and at the very least win 91 games this year. Like, I don't get, like, I don't really get the hype around it because it's not how it is. Like, this team traded for, like, we were shocked by how many deals they made. Like, they were one of the more aggressive teams at the deadline for obvious reasons. But it's just, I
yeah,
I don't get it. Like, you paid Bogarts 285. Tatis is almost 300. Manny Machado's almost $300 million. And then you'll eventually have to pay Musgrove and you'll eventually have to
pay
re-up
Merrill.
with Merrill. Like, oh,
The
ugh.
only underdog, the only underdog on the Padres is Jurickson Profar. That's the
Yeah,
only person.
like
That's the only story that's there's a happy like kind of retribution to everything where he had a phone slide out of his pocket in Colorado
yeah,
last year, and now he's 31 years old and only on a $1 million contract, playing this good for the Padres, and
having a
was an
career
all
year.
yeah, was an
Yeah,
all-star.
like
That's the only
Jarek's
underdog story.
yeah, that's the only like everybody knew this team was good. They just had a lot of riff going on in the clubhouse, it looked like. But everyone knew the team had the talent. They just
Yeah,
they mildly underperformed last year. And
yeah.
that's no, but nobody like I didn't come into this year thinking like, oh, the Padres are going to be horrible again. Like you knew they were going to compete with the best of the best.
They weren't even that bad last. Yeah, they were only 82 and 80, but
Yeah,
they were in the postseason hunt until the last couple weeks of September. Like
yeah.
there was a shot that if they had swept I think it was St. Louis, and if they went on a huge run to end the season, they
Hmm.
were 68 and 78. And then they ended the season winning 14 of 16.
Yeah. They went
Like
on they went on a massive heater.
yeah, and there was a shot they made the playoffs last year. Like, if they somehow could have won 16 straight, they would have won. They would have made the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Or if they could have just started earlier. Like
Yeah,
that was the thing. I remember like they went on a massive heater at the end of the year. They took two of three from the Dodgers and won like handsomely in both of in the two games. And then they just like it was almost like they just started too late. Like it was too little, too late. They had a bunch of bad losses scattered throughout the season, which is what really held them back. Like they were losing to teams that they should have been beating. Like that was their issue. And I don't know. Like obviously they have some of these guys under team control, but you're going to most likely lose. Are they going to re-sign Tanner Scott, or is he's not good enough for the Cinderella story because you traded an arm and a leg to get him as a rental. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but nonetheless, they're a scary team. I hate how the media is portraying them as like a team like the Tigers that like no one had expectations for, and then all of a sudden made the playoffs.
yeah. I just don't understand the whole thought around the Padres where they they're a good team and they were a good team in 2022. 2023 they had a blip year where it's just everything went wrong for them, but obviously they're back into this mojo.
Hmm.
I'm gonna leave it at that. Uh, Talking about the Padres and their deadline deals, quickly before we wrap this up, I want to talk about some quick winners and losers of the deadline. Now that we're, at the end of the season and a lot of these rentals are running up their contract and they're going to be done by the end of the year, and some of these teams won't make the playoffs. Um, what what are your quick winners?
Yeah, I mean, quick winners, Dodgers, Padres, and Astros. I mean, I
Yeah,
was really down on the Astros because I thought they gave up a lot for Kikuchi, and who knows, they might. Will Wagner's finished his Linsanity run, but I really do like Joey Loperfido. But the way that you say Kikuchi has pitched for the Astros, I think they're like 9-0 in his starts. Like
they
I don't
just lost
they
their
just
first game,
okay, so they're nine
nine
and
and
one.
one.
Boo-hoo. They're 9-1 in his 10 starts, which is just crazy to think. Like Kikuchi is going to be a very viable pitching piece for this team. He has a 2.7 ERA, a .93 whip. He always has the strikeout stuff, 76 and 60 innings. He's got a 5.4 K per walk ratio. I mean, he's been great. We haven't seen him really pitch in the postseason outside of 2023 with your beloved Blue
Yeah.
Jays. But you
I don't
just
blame
look,
him. I don't
yeah.
blame him for that game. They should have let Barrios pitch. I always thought it was stupid to have Barrios go 3 innings, give up a base hit, and then put Kikuchi into a bullpen role. I thought that was a stupid idea.
I'll always remember Mateo's reaction to that decision after it ended.
Yeah.
But you look at the starters that they have, and obviously guys like Hunter Brown and Spaghetti have stepped up for them. But outside of them, like you say Kikuchi is like you needed him just in case, but the way that obviously you'll have Framber Valdez most likely start game one. I could see them going Hunter Brown game two and Kikuchi game three, just so you mix up the lefties and the righties. Um, but the Astros are it's hard for me to say that the Astros are scary when they were dominant throughout the
for years.
entire second half of or years and then the entire second half of this year. But in the same breath, like they also sometimes just lose games that you're not expecting to lose. And also at times their offense can be anemic. And I wonder, like I just wonder, Jordan Alvarez is hurt. I didn't even know his career OPS was 980. That is drunk. But he's out for the rest of the regular season. How healthy is he going to be? Because the Astros are going to have to play in the wild card series again this year.
Yeah.
His health is really going to determine how far the Astros go. Obviously, they have Tucker and Bregman as well. They have Yainer Diaz, but the ship moves with Jordan Alvarez.
Yeah. It's a really big piece, and he needs to be healthy for the Astros to really do anything come postseason time. Like he is the cog that makes the gears turn, and he's the part in that well-oiled machine that just fills every need. If he's not there in the postseason, I don't see a world where the Astros even get out of the wild card series.
Yeah, it's like we've seen him step up so many times in the playoffs. Like they need him so badly, which is why they're kind of keeping him over Bregman. Like, no disrespect to Alex Bregman, a great third baseman, fellow Jew. What's up? But you got to pay one of the two, and you're rightfully so going to go with Jordan Alvarez.
Yeah, I mean, you even said it. Career OPS of 980. Career. And this isn't a 1 year wonder. He's been in the MLB for 6 years.
Oh, the Dodgers.
But yeah, it's really just you need to pay him, and obviously he's the most important piece on this team. Uh, but yeah, like, and you even look at it with like Verlander too. We talked
Yeah,
about it before. I don't think he
he's
starts in the
not.
postseason. He's 41 years old with a 5.55 ERA. I
Yeah,
don't see
his
any shot
time's
where
up.
he's starting.
His time's up. Like I could see Verlander maybe being a reliever in the postseason, but then again, like why would you even want to put him in a I don't think he's on the wild card roster. I
No.
think like once the roster expands for the DS, then he would be on it. I don't think he's gonna be on the wild card roster.
I mean, you look at it too, right? Like you have a starting five rotation already without him, like Ronel Blanco, Hunter Brown, Framber Valdez, Spaghetti, and Kikuchi. Like that's a good enough rotation where you have
Yeah.
Valdez and Hunter Brown have been good enough this year, and Kikuchi's been really good in their start in his 10 starts with them. But like, I don't see any shot where you're like, well, we have to give Verlander a start because he's our guy. He's 41 now, but
Yeah, this
we got
isn't
to give
like a
him a
Clayton
start.
Kershaw reclamation of last year, like where the Dodgers absolutely needed Kershaw. Like they don't need Verlander.
Verlander, yeah.
Yeah.
Quickly going to talk about the losers of the deadline, the Orioles, Twins, and Athletics. And Orioles, for obvious reasons, Trevor Rogers has done nothing, and he's will continue to do nothing with the Orioles. And just
And next year.
Eloy Jimenez too is another part from the White Sox they'd added, and he's been sent down an option to AAA, and he's really done nothing in his time with Baltimore either. OPS plus of 72 with a OPS below 600 with
Yeah,
the Orioles.
582 OPS. Get me fired up. I mean, the Orioles, I've never seen a team have so many like massive hits and massive misses
Yeah.
where Sir Anthony Dominguez, I'd say, is a hit. He's done a really nice job in that closer back end reliever role. Zach Eflin has been great with the Orioles. Don't know where they would honestly be starting pitching wise without him. Trevor Rogers has been so awful. And you
Yeah.
look at, like, I remember we were texting in our group chat, and I was like, wait, there's more than Kyle Stowers? Like, I thought even Kyle Stowers, and then they're like, yeah, it's reported Connor Norby's also in the deal. And I'm like, huh? Like Connor Norby's also in the deal. Excuse me? Connor Norby has an 850 OPS with the Marlins right now.
Yeah.
It's just the Orioles shot themselves in the foot because they had a chance to win the division. Like up
By the time of the
until
trades,
yeah,
they
like
were
up
winning the division at the time of the trade.
yeah, like up until last week, call it, or even a few days ago, the division was always within a game or a half game. And then the Orioles just make the dumbest moves I've ever seen from a contender. Like I I I was wrong about Eflin because his strikeout numbers weren't that in Tampa, and then all of a sudden he got to Baltimore and he's at like he has like a 30% strikeout rate. But the Trevor Rogers deal just really, really confusing. And it's just like you basically gave away a lot and you got nothing in return. And, and in regards to, the Twins, like, huh? Like you didn't do anything. Like you didn't do anything to make your team better. And the A's, like, you could have traded Brent Rooker, who had 35 home runs and 111 RBIs. Like,
Yeah.
that is a piece you could have gotten so much for.
Just an insane situation where they could have got a lot more. One more loser I kind of want to talk about, the Seattle Mariners. You know,
Oh,
they made deals at the deadline.
oh.
They traded for Yimi Garcia and gave up Jonathan Clase, and he's not Jimmy's a free agent at the end of this year. And they gave up their numbers. I think Clase was their number 8 prospect, and
Yeah.
now he's the Jays' number 6. And they gave it for 10 games of Jimmy Garcia to pitch for them. What an insane
Well, they
and
weren't
he wasn't
expecting him to get hurt.
I know,
Like,
but you look at it like hindsight's 2020, but that's obviously
yeah,
a losing deal now where he's a free
yeah,
agent and
yeah.
Clase is now going to be in the J system for the next foreseeable future.
Hmm.
But yeah, just a bad deal there. They made another deal with the Jays for Justin Turner. Not that Justin Turner has been bad for them, but just like you had higher aspirations than getting Justin Turner at the deadline. Justin Turner is decent for them, but I don't know. And then Arozarena
Oh
hasn't really
God.
done much either. It's they made all these deals and we're like, you know what? We're gonna bolster our team and we're gonna make a run for the division because we just lost it, but we're gonna go right back. Yeah, and then they fell even further behind.
I had so much hope for the Mariners because I thought Justin Turner was really going to help them out offensively. The Arozarena deal, I didn't really understand just because even leading up to that point, he was batting like close to 200
Yeah,
or like just hovering over there. And they're like, oh, well, but once he gets to the postseason, he has the third highest OPS in MLB history. It's like, yeah, but the Mariners making the postseason was still a big if at that time. Like now, Randy Arozarena is so like he's not valuable to the
yeah,
Mariners. The Mariners pitching staff, like if I'm any five of those starters, I'm going in the clubhouse and just smacking everyone. Like any offensive player, I'm just backhanding you across the face. The Mariners had 92 quality starts from their pitchers.
yeah. And what did they
Just
get them? A non-postseason berth.
to put that into perspective, to, to put that into perspective of just how insane that is. They had 92 quality starts and only 82 wins.
Yeah,
The Dodgers had 50 quality starts and won 95 games.
and still counting. There's still a chance they could even get.
Like
Yeah,
your offense of the Mariners, it literally just has to be mid and you
yeah.
win the division.
It's it's just been they needed offense, and I get the deals. They wanted to get Justin Turner and Rosarena to try and fix that offense, but it really hasn't done anything for them. And just it got us to where we are right now, where I feel like that is the worst deadline for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, second worst batting average. They're in the bottom half in OBP. They are in the bottom seven in slug, and they have now the sixth worst OPS. And in terms of strikeouts, boy, if you want strikeouts, call the Seattle Mariners because they
Yeah,
lead the league in strikeouts by like 40.
And that's even without they had Teoscar Hernandez last year, who struck out 211 times. Like they lost Teoscar, and they're still leading the league in strikeouts.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, they are a sports bettor's dream because you just take the other pitchers over strikeouts and then you take the Mariners under team total runs, you parlay it, and then you're Jeff Bezos. But
Yeah,
they have a lot of soul searching to do, and they also have the owner that's very unwilling to spend. Like I think Luis Castillo's $135 million contract is like the one of the largest this guy has ever given out.
yeah,
You're gonna need to go after Pete Alonso or Christian Walker because your depth is horrible. You're gonna need a better DH because you can't have your catchers also be your DH.
yeah.
Like
We we go over this. Yeah.
Big Dumper should not be your DH. And Mitch Garver, just what a horrible signing that was. Never understood it off the jump. But
He was one of the first deals of free agency last year too, by the way.
yeah, I mean, the team has hope. Like Victor Robles, Julio Rodriguez, maybe Randy Rosarena figures it out. Josh Rojas is pretty solid defensively. You have Cal Riley who hits 30 home runs like it's nothing. And then the starters.
Yeah.
The starters are so good.
Yeah, it's you have the makings of a good team, and there's no shot that you should have not made the playoffs this year. With like the Astros only won 86 games. Like this shouldn't be a team that's uh winning the division. You think of like 86 team division or 86 win division winners, you think it's like the AL Central or the NL Central. Like you
Yeah.
don't think of the AL West. You had a genuine shot with the Rangers being down this year, the Astros being down this year.
Yeah.
This should have been your year, but your offense wet themselves.
Like, do we think the Rangers are going to be this bad next year?
No,
Do
they're
we
gonna
think the
be
Astros are going to be this bad next year? Like,
no shot. They're gonna be back up to their. I think the Astros are gonna retool, and they're gonna be back to where they were. And obviously the Rangers, there's no shot they go through another year of hell where it's this unhealthy for them, where Corey Seager misses time. Marcus Semien has such a bad down year. Like I don't think
yeah,
there's any way where the Rangers are this bad next year.
I don't think so either. Like, and you look at it like, I
DeGrom's
think
gonna be healthy too,
I think
and
DeGrom's going to be
Scherzer.
healthy. Ugh, I don't know about Scherzer. I never really trusted him. But you have Kumar Rocker, who's looked pretty good in his first couple of starts. You have now a polished Wyatt Langford and Josh Smith. Nathaniel Lau is always an all reliable first baseman. You have Jonah Heim. Maybe you bring in Carson Kelly again. The bullpen is still there with Kirby Yates, David Robertson. Think you would have to bring him back. I'm pretty sure he's unrestricted, but you have Leclerc, Spores. Maybe you talk with Chafin, like, yo, that guy is such a Texas man. But
That's all you
like,
do. You just bring him to the meeting and say you're supposed to be here.
but it's just like the Mariners, this like I didn't think they were gonna go far in the playoffs, but they had a chance because all you need is your pitchers to do what they've been doing and
Yeah.
the offense to maybe score 2 runs.
Yeah, like that's all you really needed. Like you didn't need insane offense like 2021 Blue Jays offense where it's like 7 runs a game. You just needed three, four.
Yeah, like if you got like it's all you needed. It's all you needed.
Yeah, it's just really sad to see that like this is one of the best pitching years, and we've seen this with like you look at the 2023 Blue Jays. Such a good starting rotation. That doesn't normally carry on to the next year, where you
Yeah.
can't just say, well, if we just get some more hitting in the offseason, we'll probably be good next year. No, that doesn't carry on. Pitchers are one of the most volatile positions where they can have an up year and a down year. Pitching is such a hard thing to be consistent at, and that's why if you're consistent, you make a lot of money.
Yeah, and it's like just one last thing about the Mariners pitching staff. We give them their flowers. Obviously, first in the MLB in team ERA. They were tied for second in the league with shutouts throughout the year. And then even you take a look at just they weren't like a heavy strikeout team, but they were still in the top 10 in strikeouts. And then they led the league in whip by a wide margin, and opponent batting average led the league by a wide margin. How this team, like, you would look at that pitching staff and be like, that team's going to the World Series. They're
Yeah.
not even going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. It's an insanely weird situation that was going on there.
I feel bad for the manager because like no voice can switch how horrible this offense was.
Yeah. It's just what a way what a regular season, huh?
Yeah, what a regular season. I'm excited for the playoffs, for the 3 games that we have guaranteed before my TV goes airborne off the
Yeah.
balcony.
But yeah, that'll just about do it for this episode of the Breaking News Bears podcast. I once again want to thank my co-host Evan Davis. I once again want to thank you guys, listeners, for listening to another episode. See you all next week with another episode of Breaking News Bears.